Hello everyone. So I've been thinking about topics for upcoming videos and I thought I'd actually start doing a bit of scripted sort of conversation with you, and I probably won't stay onto the scripts because I never do, but I just wanted to talk about a few topics going forward. I'm still going to show you trees, but I'm going to show you certain aspects, going to talk about certain different aspects of bonsai, but I thought I'd start with one about why did I start bonsai, what attracts me to it, and there's not one simple answer to that, and I get asked it all the time, especially work colleagues. It's like, what, you look after small trees? Oh, is that about pruning and keeping them restricted and things like that? And anyone who does bonsai knows that, yeah, it does include those aspects, I suppose, but it's much more. And a lot of us do the hobby because we've got a wider interest in nature and things. So I'm going to talk about why I started bonsai and some of the things that attract me to it. So if I told you that one of my proudest achievements is a tree that I've been torturing for the last 40 years, would you believe me? It's not a very good tree. It's not the only tree from that time either. I think I've got 3, maybe 4. But it isn't very good. The others aren't that good either. Structurally, because I didn't know what I was doing. However, what I did know is how to look after plants. So I knew quite a lot of basic horticulture. I learned that off from parents. Parents had an allotment and a garden. So I learned those skills, and but I taught myself a lot of things. I did a lot of reading. I never read storybooks when I was little. It was always reference books. So whether it was science and space or plants, or later on was bonsai, there was quite a lot of bonsai books available. Peter Adams, Peter Chan, amongst authors. But that's how I started, and I'm going to go into some more of the reasons why. So a lot of people who know me can't believe I've been looking after something for that length of time. I mean, for some of the people at work, that's older than, or longer than they are old. And this hobby requires a tremendous lot of patience and time. And I'm not the only one around who does this. Although there can't be many of us who's probably done that length of time. There are some older guys in clubs and stuff, when you speak to them, they've been doing it for a long time. There's not many of us though who have actually been doing it that long. And seriously, it's probably been 25 years where I've really got into it and really started to know what I was doing and learning off others and learning techniques and moving away from John Innes number 2 with extra grit. So a lot of people, if you met me in the pub, you think I'm a little bit crazy, but there's quite a few of us who are crazy about trees. Those little trees have taught me a lot about patience, and I would say the word wasn't around, but mindfulness is something that I think it gives you. It's certainly most of the time it's relaxing, it's teaching you patience, and it's waiting, and it's planning, and it's thinking, and it's just being at one with nature, really. So I'd like to welcome back to the channel. I'm going to start out showing exactly why I fell in love with the art of bonsai, and why you might want to pick up a pair of shears. So my attraction, I guess, was a connection to all things Japanese when I was younger. And that wasn't just bonsai, it was technology, it was computers, it was robots, it was science fiction, and also obviously Godzilla. Anyone knows me knows that I love geology. That's what I studied. I still collect rocks, fossils, and minerals, even though I don't work in that field. And I love dinosaurs. And the Godzilla -1, fantastic film, absolutely fantastic. I think it's quite common for people to be attracted to Japan and the people. Whether it is the tranquil gardens, the different food, and the storytelling. And the storytelling is in literature, in stories, but also in anime, manga, and those sort of things. If you like, there are a lot of people who are attracted to that side. Not me personally, but I get it. Also, Japan has a unique aesthetic and values, and they've captured many people around the world, really. But what's interesting is although bonsai is a Japanese word, the art of growing miniature trees in containers actually originated in ancient China, probably over 2,000 years ago, and that started as penjing. So the practice later spread to Japan, and then it was refined and popularised as the art it is, and the art form it is globally. But going back to penjing, that is thought to date to over 2,000 years ago, where they would collect appropriate trees from the wild. So they would be mountainous, like stunted trees, those with lots of interesting shapes, and they grow them in pots and containers. But Chinese penjing is focused on natural, like miniature landscapes, and it includes rocks, although that's a fossil rock, figurines, moss, maybe water or the illusion of water, alongside the trees. So they really do make landscapes, and they can be miniature or they can be quite large. In Japan, so bonsai, it's thought to have originated as Buddhist monks refined penjing probably several hundred years later. It's been refined over time by the Japanese, so that bonsai translates like planted in container, and it's focusing more on the tree rather than landscapes, although they do landscapes, and they do forests, forest plantings, not to the extent that the Chinese do. And then there are other countries in Asia that are obviously crazy about bonsai, crazy about landscapes, and crazy about, they do their own interpretation. And then obviously bonsai spread across the Western world, so it's European and obviously the States and South America. It's found everywhere in the world, just about, and there are lots of commonalities where it's going to be, but there are also lots of differences. I like a more naturalistic style, and that's quite common in Europe, and I suppose in some of the American artists as well. What we benefit from in the Western world is that there are quite a lot of people who have been studied with Japanese bonsai masters in the nurseries. Some of them have spent several years there studying, and then they've come over and helped to grow the hobby elsewhere. I guess my attraction, I'm strongly attracted to nature. I've got a great affinity. I do adore trees in the landscape, particularly lovely ancient and veteran trees, and I do go up to them. I do admire them. I do look at them. I do take pictures of them. I do say hello to them. I will touch them. Their age and beauty, and often in decay, is wondrous. I wish they could talk to us more clearly in a language that we could understand. And some of these trees have been around for thousands of years. Certainly in the UK, it's common to see oaks of 800 to 1,000 plus, and then there are some yews that I believe to be a few thousand years old, and certainly in other countries there are trees that are old. However, it's not just old trees that I like. you know, it's nice to see mature trees in forests, you know, oak especially, beech. It's nice to see different trees within parks and stately homes, so not necessarily native trees. It's nice to see hedgerows. You get lots of mixture of trees there. You know, I love smaller trees like field maple. I loved elm. I obviously you've seen I've got English elm, sorry, or European elm within the collection. I just about remember some of them in the landscape, and I certainly remember the bark peeling off and all the beetle trails as these giants were dying. I do remember them, not as vividly as some people who are older, but I certainly remember them in the landscape. And obviously when you see elm in the hedges now, they will quite often be suckers from those trees that have died, and it's nice to see them. You certainly see them around here in the Midlands. There are some areas that have got more resistant variants of elm, such as down in the southwest. You do see some larger trees, but generally trees don't get more than 30 feet before they succumb. And there obviously are some veteran elms around the country. I think there's one left in Brighton. There were two. I think it's gone now. However, I am moving away from why I like bonsai, although I suppose all of that rambling is appropriate. I do really get inspired by trees and landscape, and when I'm walking through forests or I'm walking through farmland and there's individual specimen trees, it really calms me and makes me happy, really. So I did study some paleontology, covering trees and plants, and I do have some fossils in my collection. I've just flashed one, so that's fossil wood. You've seen it before, and I'll do more of a feature on some of my fossil collection in a future video. But these ones, I actually bought these from the aquatics place, because they sell them for rocks to put into aquariums. What's interesting is, and people think, oh, it doesn't have bark. This one does have bark, because I can see the tree rings, and then I can see actually this area here is definitely different. It's not down to mineralization. I can actually see the bark because I can see different structures, and it's like I've got a piece which actually has a knot in it. So obviously where a branch came out, and that has to be near the surface. So all of the features around were bark. So that's definitely bark, and that's more internally to the tree. I can see you can see cells that are preserved. So we'll have another look at that and some of my other collection of fossils another day. So obviously that piece of rock, it'll be interesting to make that present that as Suseki, which is obviously rocks that represent landscape. So just going back to it again, you could imagine that on a plinth, and that could be, if you see some of the expeditions that have been in places of the world, where they're in very sort of tropical rainforest, you sometimes see this landscape, and then they've got a bog on top, and you've got waterfalls coming down. It's like that. So imagine that as a miniature rock. I can't remember what those features are called. If someone knows, put it in the comments below, or I'll look it up and let you know later. So maybe bonsai, it's because it captures the essence of a full grown tree in a small pot, and it's you that's shaping it and nurturing it. Sorry, not just you, it's obviously the environment and nature as well, but we have a big part in it when it's bonsai. Trying to do a representation of trees in nature. I've said before, I like naturalistic bonsai aesthetic. While I do appreciate highly refined trees that have taken many hours to refine and to look after, I just prefer a more naturalistic style. As I said before, I do love geology and have a large collection of rocks, fossils and minerals. I love them, one, just because of their intrinsic beauty. You know, when I find fossils myself for the first, you know, I'm the first human to see that fossil. They have an intrinsic beauty. I like unaltered, so it's like unaltered and natural. But I still think I've said lots of things about what attracts me to bonsai, but it's difficult to define everything. I think I just love trees, and by extension I love bonsai and I love nature, and I have done for a long time. What do I get out of bonsai? I suppose I don't want to sound pretentious, but it is difficult to put things that feel right into the right words. You know, I don't think about it too much. I just do it. I just like it. I suppose it's the ultimate practice of patience. Bonsai forces you to slow down. You know, nature can't be rushed, and neither can a tree's design. You know, working on the trees helped me to disconnect from my job. My job's full on. The digital world, I know this is going to go onto a digital platform. It's on a digital camera. However, I'm hoping that we can communicate more, so there's real people behind this video, me, and you as the viewer. And we're talking about trees, which are living organisms, and it'd be nice to think that, you know, we're connecting with each other and sharing a passion. It'd be nice to have more comments on the videos as well, just so it's just saying hello, or maybe, you know, showing your trees. Don't be shy. You know, it'll be good to see that. Obviously trees, bonsai, they're a living canvas, not just gardening. It is sculpting and a living art. I don't like saying that, but it probably is true. You know, some of the designs are slightly more art than natural. You know, when you do shape trees, and trees that have been growing upright, I've turned them round, I made them into semi-cascade. You know, and that is art form, the creation of it, planting on rocks, and, you know, just the whole design aspect and shaping and cutting and wiring. I suppose that is art. You know, and think of the joy, you know, of taking raw nursery stock and thinking of what you could do with it, because you don't just choose any piece. There could be 20 of the same species, and you will pick the one that you want, the one that you've got the vision for. Yeah, and visualizing that and then working towards that goal. Yeah, so an example of that is this ginkgo here. Yeah, so this was nursery stock about 3 years ago. It was just straight up. It had it wasn't just straight up. It had two main trunks, not far from the bottom, but virtually everything else around it has grown within the last 2-3 years, because it's very vigorous. What is beautiful about this one though is a very, very small leaf. Look at the size compared to my thumb. It's a beauty. So it's very compact growth. It looks like it's female as well, because it's very, very deep cut. Look at the V in there. So it'd be female. Needs good trim, as you can see. But that's an example of something, and it probably costs £30. The pot costs more, but I did pick the pot up relatively cheap, though. It wasn't extortionate. To be honest, the pot wasn't that expensive. Because I bet that was 35 quid actually. So it's probably cost me 60 quid to do it, and then obviously time and tools that I'm using to do it, but that's only a fraction of that cost, because obviously the tools are used on all sorts of trees. But so that's, you can see, you can start to shape. Yes, it's got a long way to go. It's got some sticky out roots and stuff like that, but actually those will develop over time. It's not going to be a show tree anytime soon. It is thickening up well though. But it just shows what you can do in a short space of time. So I just keep developing and developing. Obviously I love ginkgo because they're a living fossil. Obviously doing bonsai should deepen your connection to nature, and that's one of the things, you know, caring for bonsai, learning about botany, learn about soil health and plant health, seasonal changes. It makes you aware of your local environment as well, because the local environment here are what all the trees around are living in, and you know, you can see the change in your bonsai, and you can see the change in trees in the landscape as well. So it should increase that connection, because you can go and observe trees and get ideas for your bonsai. You know, and I love taking pictures of the same trees in the landscape over multiple months. You know, take a closer look, observe the growth, the leaves, the trunks, and everything like that. And what's interesting is you can see similar things, obviously a larger scale on a more mature tree in the landscape. What I love is in the spring and in the autumn, so you can see the bark. So when the tree starts to take up more water, when it's starting, when it's waking up from its dormancy, when it's a broadleaf, you can see actually new bark. You can see the split where it's expanding, because obviously at the end of the year there would be some contraction, but only a small amount, because it would have put on what's called late wood. But you can see the bark move because the tree's gone into active growth, it's pulling water. And obviously in the autumn, when new wood is fixed and the tree's approaching dormancy, those trees are depositing late wood, and that's a response to shorter days, drop in temperature, decreased photosynthesis, and the vascular cambrian, which is the thin layer dividing stem cells between the bark and the wood, that slows down and produces denser, darker wood with smaller cells and thicker walls before going dormant. And the tree is bringing nutrients from the leaves and depositing it on the branches and the trunks and the roots. And what happens is it's putting cellulose and hemicellulose and lignin, a structural polymer, into cell walls. This creates like a more dense, rigid and thick cell wall, which gives more mechanical strength, and the cells then eventually die that's creating the wood. And then so you get the tree rings of the late wood as a dark ring, and the early wood in the early part of the season is the lighter portion. So, you know, that I learn those things because I want to know more about how things work, and I read and I'm just nosy and want to know how things work. You don't always have to know all that detail, but it helps to know some science behind things, you know. And talking about, I always say these are the solar cells, because this is where things, the energy, the food is produced, really. So I think there's always that misconception, and I keep saying it, is people think you're putting fertilizer on, that's the food. Well, it's not. That's just providing nutrients. And if a tree's not well, you don't pile nutrients there, because you're going to stress the tree even more. Actually, the place where everything happens is in the leaves. So sunlight, leaves, you've got water and minerals, and you've got photosynthesis going on, and it's producing all sorts of things. And you've got hormones and all sorts of things going on here. And that's for another time, because that's obviously quite a lot detailed. So I'm going to talk in other videos about different tree species. I've promised to talk more about fossils and show you some of my collection, and there'll be other topics as well. I mean, if you've got suggestions for topics, put them in the comments and I'll pick them up and I'll get to them at some point in the near future. But what I really want to get out of this is, you're not mad, you're not weird if you like trees like me. There's a fair few of us around, you know, and don't be afraid. I've said before, you know, about pruning and things. People are sometimes scared about pruning back. Hello everyone. The camera overheated for some reason. I mean, it is quite warm outside, it's just overheated. Anyway, you've met Leela, now meet Olive. So Olive's come to see me and she's been mooning because she wants to know what I'm doing. Yes, look, say hello to everyone. So Olive is about, well, we don't know, she was a rescue, but we think she's about 14, 15, and she's a little angel. And obviously because I've been talking here, she thinks I'm a bit weird, so she come to check up on me. Hey, darling. So she says hello. I'm going to wrap this video up now. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you're going to watch the next one. I don't know whether that'll be a pruny one and a show, like a show and tell. It might be, but I just thought I was doing too many of those in a row. So hopefully you've enjoyed this one. Like it. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. It will encourage me to do some more. There is quite a lot of videos now. If you haven't watched it, I think there's 25 odd videos. I'll let you go in a minute. That's it from me, and I'll see you on the next video. Right, goodbye. And that's goodbye from Olive, if she will say goodbye. Oh. Oh.